All right, welcome back to the conversation. We are joined this evening by the American Prospect's Alex Salmon to talk about the history of Amazon and a new book that is out by Alec McGillis called Fulfillment, Winning and Losing in One-Click America. Alex, welcome to the conversation.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
So Alex's book is sort of about Amazon, sort of about America, sort of about both. First of all, tell us what did you think of the book? If this were Amazon, how many stars you giving it?
Yeah, it's an incredible book in the sense that it gives kind of the most thorough overview of what Amazon is in this moment, and that's something that's changed a lot in the last couple of years, and it's changed really rapidly. And so the book looks at Amazon as an e-commerce giant, as a retail giant, but also as all the other things that it is, which is now an entertainment giant, a grocery store. It's a data services company. It's a logistics company. It's so many things, and it does them at such an astonishing scale, and that makes it a company that basically is peerless in this economy, and it has unique influence to reshape the lives of Americans all over the country, and the book does a really I think a very impressive job of examining what that means for people in Seattle, what that means for people in Columbus, Ohio, and what that means for all of us as either people who use Amazon or see the trucks driving down the street or watch Amazon Prime or whatever it is.
Right, and the book, and one of Alex's great strengths as a journalist is sketching characters and bringing you into scenes and showing you what people's lives are like, and he runs through a number of different people whose lives were influenced by Amazon one way or another. He also talks about Bezos and where Bezos came from. So start with him. Let's tell people a little bit about Jeff Bezos. Everybody knows. He's the bald-headed, smiling guy that's in the pictures of every article about him. But what is he like, and why did he start Amazon?
Yeah, it's interesting because for the title of America's Richest Man, we don't really know that much about Jeff Bezos, and there hasn't been that much put into mythologizing him as a character. You don't hear, there aren't people on the internet who say that Jeff Bezos is this great genius, this kind of unique intellectual figure. He's not this super passionate guy who cares so uniquely about logistics above all else. And so the kind of portrait of Bezos that we get in this book, which I think is is very accurate and very unsparing, is someone who has a background in finance, who saw an opportunity to make a lot of money off of the internet, and then basically made a series of decisions to put together a company that would realize that aim. And so you kind of see him moving to Seattle and choosing to sell books. He moves into this house in Seattle that has a garage, and he picks that house because he wants to be able to say that he started Amazon in a garage. And he picks Seattle because he doesn't want his California consumers to have to pay sales tax, so he has a competitive advantage over in-state retailers there. And so the whole thing is very calculating, and he ends up kind of sketching together this company that's basically on arbitraging the American tax code, and it has nothing, little to do with a love of books, which obviously is where it starts out. It has nothing to do with, this real belief in some sort of utopian vision of what the internet could bring. He's just a guy who has a finance background, who knows how to hit the loopholes in the American economic system, and he does that basically on a level we haven't seen before.
All right, and nobody who has a love of books would really set out to destroy bookstores. I wouldn't think you wouldn't set that as one of your life's goals. And you talked about the sales tax or arbitrage that he pulled off. He also pulled off this kind of cash flow arbitrage, which as a Wall Street guy, he knows that one of the basic formulas in capitalism is that money today is worth a tiny bit more than money tomorrow. That's where interest comes from. And so if you can manipulate your cash flow so that you're sitting on cash that is actually somebody else's, whether it's your workers' cash or it's your it's a supplier's cash, the longer you can sit on that, you can make a little tiny bit of money off of that for doing nothing. And if you rack up enough of that, then you can eventually turn a profit, effectively doing nothing, just moving things around. So Alec does a great job telling that side of the story. But like I said, he also gets into some of the regular people and talks about geographical and regional inequality in a way that is absent from our national conversation. We talk a lot about inequality within cities, inequality within the country, but he talks about how entire regions are going one direction while entire other regions, mostly on the coast but not everywhere on the coast, are going a different direction. Can you sketch out a little bit of the portrait that Alec paints of this kind of Amazon America that is beset by regional inequality?
Yeah, sure. It's kind of the winner take all mentality that we've seen kind of predominate the economy broadly, and I think it speaks to this moment of gross inequality in the United States is true also of America's cities. And so the point that the contention that Alec makes in this book, which I think is very apt, is that you have a handful of cities that have reaped almost all the rewards of the economy over the last 20 or 30 years, and much of that is embodied in Amazon because it's so large. And then you have these kind of other mid-sized cities that once did quite well in the United States. That there were places like Columbus, Ohio, these kind of mid-sized cities where there were blue-collar jobs that paid reasonable wages. People could own a home. There was a standard of living that was on offer in cities that weren't the big six or the big eight American coastal cities. And in the story of Amazon, you can also see both the rise of places like Seattle and Washington D.C. is another one that gets a lot of attention in the book. That have really grown in the last handful of years, and that's rents are skyrocketing. It's manifests in a number of ways. But then you also have these other places like Columbus, like El Paso, like these kind of mid-sized American cities where you just basically the industry is hollowed out, and it's not even so much that the bottom drops out, but more the middle drops out, and you have jobs that once paid reasonable wages are just gobbled up or forced to compete with Amazon to the degree that it drops down to near rock bottom, and that's that is expressed in the rise of Trump. There are so many of these things that this speaks to in this political moment, but. The book does a really, really sharp job of kind of sketching out the geographical nature of this drama and kind of how it's unfolded over decades.
What role did Amazon play in bringing that about, and what role did Amazon play in just exploiting? Are they vultures eating off the carcass, or are they the coyotes that killed it?
It's certainly a bit of both. I think there's a temptation to say Amazon caused this, and I don't think that's totally accurate. I think a lot of the collapse of union density, trade policy, industrial policy. We've seen a lot of things that have basically set a lot of these trends in motion before Amazon showed up, and Amazon in a lot of ways just did what Walmart did and followed in the footsteps of Walmart, which is another obviously a giant retailer with massive influence. But there are also ways in which Amazon has kind of broken new ground on this trend. And you see that even in its lobbying force, and that's another kind of thing that the book focuses on. I think very smartly is that the amount of money Amazon has dedicated towards lobbying just in the last couple of years has really exploded, and that's kind of where we're seeing the company not just picking on the carcass, but also now it's also a predator, and it's taking down these. These companies and these cities and these areas and rewriting the laws to allow it to do so, and that's, I think, in this moment now we have it doing both, and that seems like an inflection point in a lot of ways.
And meanwhile, they engaged, and related to that, they engaged in this deeply cruel pageant, where they had American cities across the country kind of dress up and show off to Amazon and promise different sweeteners to if they would put their headquarters in their town. So you had all of these cities across the country thinking like, okay, maybe our nightmare could finally be ended. Even if Amazon is causing some of this, at least if we could get one of the headquarters positioned in our city, then we can finally get our renaissance. But all along, they were going to New York and Washington, D.C. Do you think that was ever in doubt?
I don't think so. And there's this great quote in the book from early Amazon investor named Nick Hanauer, and he said, to the idea that Amazon might pick a place like Jacksonville or some sort of mid-sized American city that that is hurting and dedicate resources to kind of turning that around. He said, I guess I can't swear on the air, so I can't say the full quote, but I'll paraphrase that Jeff Bezos is a straight up libertarian. That the kind of righting a social wrong was no part of his calculus, and maybe to a unique degree, he has no interest in that. And I think that it's looking back at that pageant, it's cynical and sad and extremely discouraging to see these municipal governments just basically bowing before this corporation, and then despite offering these incredible tax credits and this, that, the other thing, still never having a real chance to kind of partake of the spoils.
All right. Well, the one solace we can take is that Amazon, at least, is being forced to sell this book and has not pulled it from its virtual shelves. I checked, and you can actually find it on Amazon. I don't encourage people to buy it necessarily from there, but you can find it there, and that's a little bit of insult to add to all the injury they've done across the country. But Alex Salmon, thanks so much for joining us on the conversation. Great piece. Everybody, check it out at The American Prospect.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ryan.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat, emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.